The old house creaked. It was a place that seemed to hold on to secrets, whispering them through the walls and floorboards. The wind howled outside, making the windows rattle as if they were trying to escape the house's grasp. 10-year-old Lily loved her new room with its high ceilings and tall windows. The sunlight streamed in, casting playful shadows on the walls. She felt like a princess in a castle, her imagination running wild with dreams and stories. But the closet, tucked away in a dark corner, always felt cold. It was as if the warmth of the room couldn't reach it, leaving it in perpetual shadow. Lily often found herself glancing at it, a shiver running down her spine. One afternoon, Lily searched for her missing teddy bear. She had looked everywhere else, and the closet was her last hope. The room was a mess of toys and clothes, but the closet stood untouched, almost daring her to open it. She pushed aside her winter coats, their wool smelling of dust and time. The coats were heavy and thick, remnants of winters past. Each one seemed to hold a memory, but none of them held her teddy bear. Her hand touched something unexpected, something hard and cold. It was unlike anything she had ever felt before, sending a jolt of fear through her small frame. She hesitated, her heart racing. Lily pulled it out. It was a finger, pale and lifeless. The sight of it made her stomach churn, and she dropped it immediately. The finger seemed to stare back at her accusingly. A man's finger with a silver ring on it. The ring was tarnished, but its intricate design was still visible. It looked old, ancient even, as if it had a story of its own to tell. Lily screamed. The sound seemed to hang in the air, swallowed by the shadows of the room. Her scream was a mix of terror and disbelief, echoing off the walls and filling the space with her fear. Dropping the finger, she stumbled back, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the blood rushing in her ears, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. The room seemed to close in around her, the walls pressing in as if to keep her secret. She didn't tell anyone. Who would believe her? The finger was gone the next day. Vanished. Lily tried to forget, but the house felt different, colder. The shadows seemed deeper, stretching out like long fingers towards her. One evening, Lily saw it. A statue, a gargoyle, perched on the bookshelf, its stone eyes glinting in the dim light. It moved. Its head turned, following her with a chilling intensity. Lily blinked. The gargoyle was still again, frozen in stone. But she knew what she had seen. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. The whispers started that night, soft murmurs at the edge of her hearing, pronouncements of her name, weaving in and out of her dreams. They were laced with malice, promising danger. Lily couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, eyes wide open, staring at the shadows that danced on the walls. The shadows seemed to twist and contort, taking on grotesque shapes. A cold draft snaked across her face, carrying the scent of damp earth and decay. Panic swelled in her chest, choking her. She was trapped. The creatures came alive at night. Stone figures, grotesque and menacing, stalked her from room to room. Their eyes glowed with an eerie light, their movements jerky and unnatural. Lily ran. She dodged their grasping claws, her breath coming in ragged gasps. But no matter how fast she ran, they were always right behind her, their cold breath on her neck. She screamed for her parents, but they didn't react. They sat in the living room, oblivious to the horrors that surrounded them. They couldn't see, they couldn't hear. Days turned into nights, a blur of fear and exhaustion. Lily was caught in a terrifying game of hide-and-seek, the stakes impossibly high. Her sanctuary, her home, had become a prison. The creatures were relentless, their numbers growing with each passing hour. Gargoyles with leathery wings swooped down from the ceiling. Stone dogs with razor-sharp teeth snapped at her heels. Lily felt hope draining away, replaced by a chilling certainty. This was her new reality, a nightmare she couldn't escape. Desperate, Lily tried to tell her parents. "The statues," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They're alive." Her parents exchanged worried glances. "It's just a nightmare, sweetheart," her mother soothed, brushing her hair back from her forehead. But it wasn't a nightmare, it was real, and it was consuming her. Lily retreated into herself, her silence a shield against the disbelief she knew would greet her words. She was alone, utterly alone. The air grew thick with a palpable dread. The scent of decay intensified, clinging to Lily like a shroud. The house itself seemed to be closing in, suffocating her. She was running out of time. The creatures were bolder now, their eyes burning with a malevolent hunger. They were closing in, herding her towards something. Lily's breath caught in her throat. She could feel their eyes on her, watching her every move. There was nowhere left to run, nowhere left to hide. They cornered her in the attic, a dusty, forgotten space beneath the eaves. The wooden beams creaked under the weight of years, and the dim light barely penetrated the thick layers of dust that coated every surface. It was a place long abandoned, a relic of the past that now served as her prison. The air was thick with cobwebs and the musty smell of decay. Each breath she took was a struggle, the air heavy with the scent of neglect and time. The cobwebs hung like ghostly curtains, swaying gently in the stale air, adding to the eerie atmosphere of the place. The creatures circled her, their shadows stretching out like grasping claws. Their eyes glowed with a malevolent light, piercing through the darkness and filling her with dread. They moved silently, their forms shifting and blending with the shadows, making it hard to tell where one ended and another began. Lily closed her eyes, bracing herself. She could feel the cold, clammy air against her skin, and the hairs on the back of her neck stood on end. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing in the silence of the attic. She tried to steady her breathing, to calm the rising tide of panic within her. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her fear. She stood firm, her fists clenched at her sides, determined to face whatever came next. She knew that showing fear would only make them stronger, and she refused to give them that power over her. She would face the unknown with courage, even if it was the last thing she did. She had come this far, and she wasn't about to back down now. The darkness might be overwhelming, but she had a light within her that no shadow could extinguish. A low growl echoed around her, sending shivers down her spine. It was a sound that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, a deep, guttural noise that made her blood run cold. She could feel the vibrations of the growl in her bones, a primal warning of the danger that surrounded her. The creatures were closing in, their forms shifting and merging, becoming something monstrous. They loomed over her, their shapes twisting and contorting into a single terrifying entity. It was a nightmare made flesh, a horror that defied description. But even in the face of this abomination, Lily stood her ground, ready to confront whatever came next. Then silence. Lily opened her eyes. The creatures were gone. The room, once filled with ominous shadows and lurking figures, was now eerily empty. The sudden stillness was almost deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos that had just ensued. Lily's heart pounded in her chest, the echo of her own heartbeat the only sound she could hear. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself, but the fear was still there, gnawing at her insides. The attic was empty, bathed in an eerie, almost peaceful light. She was alone. The single ray of light that pierced through the darkness seemed to mock her, highlighting the dust motes that danced in the air. It was as if time had stopped, leaving her suspended in this moment of quiet terror. The serenity of the scene was deceptive, masking the true horror that lay just beneath the surface. But the fear remained, a cold knot in her stomach. It twisted and turned, making her feel nausea. She clutched her stomach, trying to quell the rising tide of panic. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for any sign of the creatures that had tormented her. The memory of their cold, unfeeling eyes and twisted forms was still fresh in her mind. She knew with a chilling certainty that this wasn't over. The creatures were still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for their next opportunity. She could feel their presence, a dark, oppressive force that seemed to seep into the very walls of the attic. She had to stay vigilant to be ready for when they returned. The creatures were still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for their next opportunity. They were patient, biding their time, knowing that fear would eventually wear her down. The shadows seemed to move and shift, taking on sinister shapes that played tricks on her mind. She couldn't let her guard down, not even for a moment. Lily backed away, her eyes darting around the room, searching for any sign of movement. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind set her nerves on edge. She felt like a cornered animal, desperate to escape but with nowhere to run. The walls seemed to close in on her, the darkness pressing down from all sides. She had escaped this time, but for how long? The question gnawed at her, a constant reminder of the danger that still lurked. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, that the creatures were just waiting for the right moment to strike again. She had to find a way to protect herself, to keep the darkness at bay. The question lingered in the air, as heavy and oppressive as the silence that surrounded her. The attic, once a place of refuge, had become a prison. The silence was suffocating, a constant reminder of the unseen threat that loomed over her. She had to stay strong to find a way to fight back against the darkness. But for now, all she could do was wait and hope that she would be ready when the time came.